Okay, we're taking a look at Chapter 8-8A, and we're going to be looking and calculating gross pay, total deductions, and net pay. So we're doing it for one employee, Donald Chen, and he makes $8.50 an hour, and he also gets time and a half for anything worked over 40 hours per week. So during the last week of January of the current year, he worked 48 hours. That means we're going to have 40 hours at regular pay and 8 hours at overtime pay. He is also married and claims 3 withholding allowances, so we'll have to use our tax brackets to figure out the federal income tax withholding. And his weekly wages are subject to the following deductions. By following deductions, that can be, it's listed in your textbook at the back of Chapter 8 for Problem 8A. So we are going to calculate his pay. So the first thing for regular pay, we're going to take the 40 hours times the 85. It gives us 348.5, sorry, gives us $340. Then to get the 12.75, what we did is we took 8.5 times 1.5 because it's time and a half, 1.5 times the regular rate, times the 8 hours, so he gets $102 in overtime pay. So we then add those together to get the $42 for his gross pay. So the $42 here is going to be his gross pay. Then we're going to calculate deductions. Now the employee federal income tax comes from the tax brackets that you find in your textbook. Okay, so we're going to have to flip to those, and we're going to have to decide first, is he married or single? He's married, so we find the married form. Then we find the 3 at the top because he has 3 withholdings, and then we find the $442 on the left, and it shows that he has a federal income tax withholding of $7. Social Security tax, we're going to take the 442 gross pay times our 6.2%. For Medicare, we take our gross pay of 442 times our 1.45%. Then the book tells us that he has a health insurance premium of $85 withheld, so that's maybe he's paying for his health insurance through his employer. And then he sends $125 to the credit union, maybe for his savings account or a payment of some kind. And then he contributes $10 to United Way. So if I add all of these up, my total deductions are $260.81. So gross pay, the amount I started with, minus all my deductions, his net pay is $181.19. So keep in mind that even though he has a gross pay of $442, he's only taking home $181.19. Seems pretty low, but also keep in mind that $125 of that's going to the credit union. So the next step then is to journalize all of this. So we are journalizing wages and salaries expense. Chapter 8 is wages and salaries expense. It's all the employee portion of everything. So your wages and salaries expense here is always going to be for the total amount. So this 442 is debited to wages and salaries expense. Then we're going to credit all of our deductions to payable accounts. So hopefully you remember that payable tells us that these accounts are liability accounts. So what we're doing is we're putting all of these deductions into these liability accounts because we're not sending it all to Social Security or to Medicare or anything to the IRS and federal government. We only do that on a quarterly basis. So we're putting it into these temporary liability accounts, these holding accounts. Okay, so we have our gross pay as our wages and salaries expense. We credit all these payable accounts for our withholdings, and then you know that debits and credits must equal. Okay, so then we're going to have to credit our cash for our net pay. Cash is the take-home pay. It's the net pay. It's the amount that their check is written for. So all of your deductions in your net pay should equal your debit of your total wages and salaries expense.